Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh,
Hi, Bob. How are you?
good, good.
Good. And everybody else, I see we have John and Darlene and Mary and Inspector Kreitz and Sergeant Sadino. Okay. Um, so I think we're good to go. This is everyone we're expecting today, I believe. So Darlene, if you'd like to kick things off, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I shall call the meeting to order. And I guess we have to advise everyone about the live stream of this meeting. This is the Sioux OPP Detachment Board Police Services meeting, and today is Thursday, August 28th. And we are linked to live stream. And I shall advise everybody that A, the meeting is being live streamed and video recorded. B, the opinions individuals representing a delegation presentation are their own, and the board is not responsible for delegates, presenters' comments, or any materials delegates choose to provide. Number C, the link to the live stream is posted on the agenda so that, oh, okay. The link to the live stream is posted on the agenda so the public can view the live proceedings, which is also the link to the video recording. Whenever possible, the board will advise all delegates, presenters in advance of the meeting and that the meeting and their presentation will be live streamed and video recorded, and the recording posted for public viewing. So that's just the regarding the live stream. So that's what we usually do, is advise people that the recording is also happening and that it's available for later viewing. Okay, number 1B, attendance motions to excuse, if any. I am not sure if there's anybody that needs to be.
Nope.
No, nobody. Okay. And 1C, the no change in membership. I'm a counselor now for the Sioux municipality. I filled the vacancy that was presented, and I was asked if I would step in as counsel for the next year, and I said yes. But we have as membership for the police services board, we have two positions from the different councils, which includes Pickle Lake. And so I wanted, I've, we had to let Mayor Doug Lawrence has stepped down from the board. So as a result, because I am remaining to be the chair for the Sioux Police Services Board Detachment. So we're sorry to see him go, and I wish he could have stayed on. But anyway, okay, so that's a change in the membership. 1D, note the change in board support staff also. Tiffany Thompson, the board recording secretary, is no longer with the municipality. We will also miss her, and she has moved to another place, I guess. Yeah. All right. So those are C and D are a couple of the changes that have happened here. Excuse me. Okay, so now number 2, we'll move on to the land acknowledgement. And the land acknowledgement here is that we are on the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation within the area of Treaty 3. We're also in Treaty 9, and in addition, many of the people and communities we serve are also in Treaty 5 of the Anishinaabe Nation. Okay, so that's the land acknowledgement. And then number 3, the approval of the agenda. 3A, introduction of amendments to the agenda. Anybody? I have none. Okay, I don't see anybody else speaking up. I can't see the chat here. Let's go. Okay, so can we have a motion to 3B to approve the agenda as presented? Then, anybody want to? Yeah, I'm trying to see a different gallery view of mine.
I'll move.
I'll move. Or I'll second.
Yeah, I can't see anybody. I don't know what's going on here. I'll put it on gallery. Okay. Who moved? Sorry.
Moved by John and seconded by Bob.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And all in favor? Everybody?
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aye. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, declarations of interest or pecuniary interest.
To you, Madam Chair, I haven't received any in advance, so unless anyone has anything they'd like to disclose now.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll move on to 5, the adoption of the minutes from May 22nd, 2025, and everybody has received them. And are there any errors or omissions? I didn't really notice any errors or anything, so. Okay, they seem to look all right. Nobody else comment on this? Okay. So 5B, we need a motion to approve the minutes as presented or amended.
I move.
I'll second.
Oh, I can't see anybody. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I missed the mover and seconder.
Yeah.
Sorry. Moved by,
There's the video. I can see it.
I moved.
okay, thank you.
Bob moved. Okay.
Sorry, that was I had Mary set up on the wrong I don't know, frequency there, so everyone should be able to see everybody else now, I hope.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I could
Thank
see
you. Sorry about that, Mary. Sorry,
Nope.
everybody.
That's
Well, I
okay.
This is what happens when we lose Tiffany.
Yeah.
We will get better. I will get better, I promise.
All right, so we have mover, Bob, seconder, John, and all in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Awesome. Thank you.
thanks. And move on to number 6, delegations or presentations. There are none, so we're great with that. Number 7, items for discussion and reports. We'll go to 7A. The OPP reports statistics for the second quarter, April to June for Pickle Lake and Sioux. Inspector Mike Christ, Detachment Commander.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So first off, I'd just like to take the opportunity to announce Staff Sergeant Restadino was successful in the recent operations manager position for Sioux Lookout.
Oh,
So Russ, like me, he's spent the majority of his life living in Sioux Lookout. He's chosen to raise his family here, which I think is significant. He really cares about this community. He believes in this community, and we're excited to have him in this role. I'd also like to announce that we have a new detective sergeant in Brad Slade. He started his career in Sioux Lookout, and he transferred to Kenora. And like many people, he missed Sioux Lookout and decided that he wanted to come back. So Brad also has decided to raise his family here in Sioux Lookout. So I feel really lucky that a number of our leaders here have deep roots in these communities and want to live and work here. So we're lucky for that. I'll actually turn it over to Staff Sergeant Cedino for a quick update on some of the Sioux Lookout highlights for this quarter. Russ, are you on the call?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Yeah, just a couple things to touch base. Sioux Lookout specific. We've had quite some success. I don't know if you recall the last meeting we talked about. We further invested in our community safety crime unit, which is basically our drug unit. We've seen some extremely positive results from that. Since then, like in April, we conducted a search warrant in Sioux Lookout where we seized 3 firearms, almost 100 grams of ecstasy, 160 grams of methamphetamines. A couple of people were charged with various drug offenses there. Our members have been extremely busy over the summer working 2 different projects. One's called Project Outlet, one's called Project Wild. I won't get into the specifics, but essentially those projects have wrapped up, which resulted in multiple people being arrested and charged and search warrants being executed, numerous firearms being seized. In the one case, we had 27 firearms seized from the one location. Another location down in Toronto, actually. A couple handguns were seized, over 1 kilogram of cocaine. So again, we've invested in that unit, and we're seeing very, very positive results. Even though that one project, like I said, the warrants were done down in Toronto, those drugs were destined for the north. So, and that was as a result of a lot of the intelligence that our folks up here were able to share with the Toronto Police Service. And as far as the school year starting up, our school resource officers will be reaching out to schools next week. So each school will have a designated resource officer that should they have any complaints or issues ongoing, they'll have a point of contact to help them resolve any of those issues locally, as well as our OPP Kids program. We ran that successfully this quarter at Sacred Heart School, and we're looking to expand that this year to Sioux Mountain and Sacred Heart both. But those are the main highlights for Sioux Lookout at this point. So.
Thanks, Russ.
Nice.
So looking at the Q2 report, with respect to property crime, you'll see on page 4 that our overall property crime occurrences are down from 2024, 33%. And looking closer at this reduction in property crime, our break and enters are down significantly. This time last year, we were at 21. And year to date in 2025, there have only been 12. So I did a review of those. There weren't any prolific addresses in 2024 where break and enters were occurring, and now they're not. I did look at the individuals responsible for those break and enters. So in 2024, we charged 14 people with break and enter in Sioux Lookout. And of those, 9 of them appear to have spent significant amounts of time outside of Sioux Lookout in 2025. So they just haven't been in Sioux Lookout. So that could speak to our break and enters trending down right now, that these offenders just haven't been in the community. I'd also like to highlight that our offender management and apprehension program, which I've spoken about at previous meetings, has been extremely effective. So we started this program in March of 2024. And since that time, we've executed 758 warrants. We've had 154 offenders as part of the program. We've completed 1,611 compliance checks on those offenders. And from those compliance checks, 99 offenders have been found breaching their conditions, and they've been charged accordingly. So without a doubt, better monitoring offenders in the community and their compliance with their conditions does have an impact on reducing calls for service. So that's been a big success for us. Our mischief calls were also down. We've only had 25 year to date in 2025 and 49 this time last year. I reviewed the mischiefs, and this time last year, we had 10 mischiefs in the vicinity of the Miller Street apartments, Miller Crescent apartments. And year to date, 2025, we've had 0 mischiefs in the vicinity of Miller Crescent. And During one of our previous meetings, we were discussing the major reduction in calls we've had at 7 Miller specifically. So I looked closer into it, and even in the area of Miller Crescent, last year we responded to 508 calls in that area. Year to date, this year it's only 264. So that's a 63% reduction in calls for service in that area, which is significant. And there's no doubt that can spill over to the rest of the community as well. For property crime trending down, we also know that security guards, private security guards, play a major role in determining criminal behavior just through their presence alone. And private security in Sioux Lookout has increased in the past year with the LCBO having private security as well as the municipality having private security. We have seen them in areas that traditionally receive higher than average calls for service. And we're seeing some reductions in those areas. So just as an example, at the town beach, 2024 versus 2025, we've seen a 21% reduction in calls for service. At the municipal office, we've seen a 56% reduction in calls for service. And at the library, we've seen a 43% reduction in calls for service, 2024 versus 2025. So that's excellent work. With respect to the LCBO, security there started in September of 2024. And I've spoken with the LCBO manager about this, and she commented to me that having security there has made a night and day difference with respect to reducing thefts of liquor from the store and preventing or discouraging intoxicated people from purchasing alcohol at the store. She commented that the program's been extremely helpful, and as long as they can staff the program, it's going to remain in place, which is very encouraging. So year to date at the LCBO, there's been a 43% reduction in calls for service. So security plays a major role. We'll talk about it later, but really any call or any interaction that security has with the public, it could potentially generate a police call for service that they're handling in many cases on their own without having to involve the police. And Staff Sergeant Cedino has also been doing an excellent job working with the hospital and hospital security teams and helping reduce calls for service that way. So Russ, maybe you can give us a bit of an update on your work with the hospital and hospital security.
Sure, yeah. So I meet with the SLIFNA head of security as well as the hospital head of security and their facilities manager and discuss the ongoing issues. Obviously, we deal with a lot of the same people and have the same types of calls that we're dealing with: LLA, unwanted persons, trespass, those sorts of things. Our calls for service remain pretty steadfast with the 3 hostels now in place. But now, having said that, I just met with them on Monday, and their security type incidents that they report on are increasing, but their calls to the police are not. So during this quarter, between the 3 hostels, they dealt with 1,800 in-house security incidents, and the police were only called 261 times. Where in the past, we would have been called for the majority of those for sure. So they're definitely doing a better job at educating their security personnel on what their authorities are, what they can and can't do, and what their expectations are, and they're trying to deal with it on their own instead of calling the police. The hospital has done a phenomenal job. We've reduced calls during the same quarter last year by 50%. So last year we had 204 calls for service at the hospital, and this year we're at 102. And that's going to be a large reduction was unwanted persons. I think I touched on this at last meeting where that's where hospital security is calling us and asking us to ask somebody to leave their property. And then we do that, and then the person leaves. But now they're just doing that on their own, and the person's leaving, and it's stopping that call coming to the police because it's not required. And again, that's the security manager training and educating his folks on what the expectation, what their authorities are. So we'll continue to work together and hopefully reduce them even more.
Thanks, Russ. So under the operational billing category, our calls for service are also down 24%, 2024 versus 2025. Again, a large part of that is the work at 7 Miller Crescent. Our insecure building calls there are down 153% year to date. So that building was frequently left insecure. The officers were checking on it. And since that time, they've been doing a much better job at keeping it secure, keeping the doors closed. There's a few other areas in town, and we're continuing to work with those landlords to reduce insecure building calls and alarm calls at those addresses as well. And then, as Staff Sergeant Cedeno was saying, unwanted persons calls are a real call that private security can deal with on their own. And our unwanted persons calls are down almost 18% year to date. So I think it would be reasonable to attribute some of that decline to private security dealing with these calls on their own. Moving on down to violent criminal code on page 3. You'll note that the overall violent criminal code calls for service are down from 2024, with the exception of assault with a weapon / assault causing bodily harm, which is up from 34 in 2024 to 44 in 2025. And in looking at that, I think it's important just to discuss what the definition is of assault with a weapon. It means the person used or threatened to use a weapon, which can be anything, any item that can be used to hurt someone. And they don't actually have to cause injury. They just need to have the weapon in their possession during an assault. So I've reviewed all of the assault with a weapon occurrences for 2025 and found many more instances where two people who were known to each other in Sioux Lookout were in a physical altercation, and one of them used a weapon that wouldn't traditionally be thought of as a weapon. So some actual examples from these calls from the second quarter include someone throwing things like a perfume bottle, a cell phone, a backpack, dresser drawers, a bag of groceries, items that we don't traditionally associate with traditional weapons, right? Like a knife or a baseball bat. So I think it's important to note that, while there is a bit of an increase, I don't see it as something that, the average community member needs to be concerned about. These are people who are typically, they're known to each other and they're having a physical altercation. I also note that our clearance rate for assault caused bodily harm occurrences this year is currently sitting at 100%. So these have all been solved. Moving on down to other criminal code on page 5, you'll see that calls for service are down from 275 in 2024 to 233 in 2025. And there was a large decline in our disturb the peace calls for service. They were down 40%. And disturb the peace calls in Sioux Lookout are typically associated with intoxicated people having a minor altercation, be it physical or verbal, in a public area, and a member of the public seeing that and calling the police. And in Sioux Lookout, almost all of our disturb the peace occurrences are associated with the overconsumption of alcohol. So again, we're seeing a decline here, and we're hearing from the LCBO that there is a reduction in the amount of alcohol being stolen in the downtown core or intoxicated people being served. So we believe that's having a direct contribution to those reduction. We know from previous reports that when the LCBO is closed on Sundays and Mondays, our calls for service drop dramatically. So any limiting of the amount of alcohol in our downtown core, we know is limiting our calls for service, or it's decreasing our calls for service. With respect to our operational calls on page 8, we saw a reduction in assist public calls. They're down 23% from 2024 year to date. Again, we believe that private security being able to deal with some of these situations is certainly helping. Again, our insecure buildings have decreased, and a lot of that is 7 Miller. And then, as Staff Sergeant Cedeno was saying, our suspicious persons and unwanted persons can also be dealt with by private security, and those are also down. Suspicious persons are down 26%, and unwanted persons are down 24% versus last year. Looking at our statutes and acts on page 10, Overall, we've seen a drop from 292 in 2024 to 275 in 2025. However, our Mental Health Act occurrences have increased. I did a dive into these occurrences, and what I found was that of all of our mental health calls in Sioux Lookout so far this year, only 5 individuals are responsible for 30.5% of the calls. So it's a very small group of individuals who are having repeated calls to the police associated with their mental health. So we've tabled 2 of these individuals at the Sioux Lookout situation table already. And our mobile crisis response worker is actively engaged in trying to connect these individuals with better supports so that they don't need to call the police and involve the police. And then by comparison, in 2024, our top 5 individuals associated with mental health calls only generated 18% of the total calls. So a real spike this year in a small group of individuals, but we're working hard to ensure they're connected with resources and hoping that those calls will start to trend down. I've already kind of touched on it, but our Trespass Property Act calls are also down 52% year over year. And again, we do believe that private security absolutely assists with that, and the reduction in the theft of alcohol downtown would assist with that. We are continuing to see high clearance rates for our violent crime occurrences, which were at 85.6% this quarter, as well as our property crime, which was 66% for this quarter, which is very high. It's the highest in this region, and I would venture it's the highest in the province. So we're proud of that number, and it's something our officers work very hard to ensure those property crimes are solved. You'll note that our foot patrol hours this quarter are slightly down from 2024. However, they're up significantly from 2023, and we're continuing to prioritize foot patrol, particularly in high volume call areas. And that is it for the Sioux Lookout review, unless there's any questions. If not, I'll move on to Pickle Lake. I will move on. So for Pickle Lake,
Okay.
sorry, no questions?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. For Pickle Lake, we have a new acting sergeant up there, Mel Flores. He came highly recommended, and he's helping with supervision, and we have a lot of new members there. So just getting them acquainted with the community, helping with coaching and developing these members. I was just up in Pickle Lake for the past 2 days, and in my opinion, the culture at the detachment's really good. We've welcomed a number of new recruits this year. The staffing is much better, and I'm happy to see that the members up there are really getting involved in the community. They have boats, they're kayaking, they're paddleboarding, and it's really nice to see them get out in the community. For Q2, the members had excellent attendance at the Crelancia Breakfast Club. They were there regularly. PC John Sherry organized a bike rodeo to help promote bike safety amongst the youth in the community, which was really well attended. We're going to look to do that again. Our Pickle Lake OPP members also participated in the Pickle Lake community cleanup, which they really enjoyed. And they've also been really making it a priority to reduce impaired driving in the community. This quarter, they completed 47 ride checks, and they had 2 really good proactive impaired driving investigations that both resulted in charges. So certainly something they're keeping their eye on up there. On page 3, the violent criminal code offenses, you'll see that assaults are up slightly 2025 year to date at 21 from 2024, which was 16. More notably, again, the assault with weapon and assault caused bodily harm occurrences are up 9 versus 3. And I reviewed them and noted that the majority of them were associated with intimate partner violence. So we're really continuing to focus on connecting those victims with victim services and with supports, and in also ensuring strong investigations, and ensuring that victims are prepped for court, and that with respect to the offenders, we're conducting compliance checks on them to ensure that they're abiding by their conditions in the community. On page 4, for the property crime occurrences, I'm happy to report that there were 0 break-and enters reported during Q2 in Pickle Lake, which was nice to see. Otherwise, the property crime numbers are quite similar to 2024. And members up there are really continuing to prioritize property checks and just visibility, especially in the downtown area around the liquor store. Moving on to page 5, for the other criminal code violations, you'll see that our bail violations, failed to comply charges are up significantly, 20 year to date versus only 8 in 2024. And again, I attribute a lot of that to our offender management and apprehension program. We're just doing more compliance checks now on our offenders, and it's resulting in more infractions. So we're seeing a bit of an uptick there. A few more breach of probation charges. In a number of instances, it's actually the probation officer that does the investigation and lays the charge on their client, and we just file the information. So a lot of that work is being done by probation and parole. Moving on to page 8, other criminal code. Unfortunately, our bear complaints are up slightly in Pickle Lake this year, up to 12. We did have to dispatch 1 bear that was seen as a community safety issue. But I've been speaking with the sergeants up there, and they've advised that things are getting quite a bit better. So a lot of it has to do with how garbage is stored, particularly in the Lakeview Crescent area. So anything that we can do to improve that will likely pay dividends in reducing our bear calls. Our domestic disturbances and family disputes are trending up slightly. Again, we're working as hard as we can to connect those victims with supports. And we're currently sitting at 98% for our referral rate to victim services. So we're going to keep that number high, keep supporting our victims. Moving on to page 10, our mental health act. Threat of suicide calls are up 11 this year versus 6 last. And in looking at that, it's actually a similar situation as Sioux Lookout, where there's a few individuals that are creating a disproportionate number of calls. So again, we've engaged our mental health worker down here to work with those individuals and work to connect them with services to try and reduce those calls. Moving on to our criminal code charges on page 12. You'll see we're up. We laid 55 charges this quarter versus 44 the previous year. And a number of those were associated with the slight uptick in assaults, breaches or bail violations, and some thefts as well as minor thefts. Moving on to page 17, our clearance rates in Pickle Lake have also been high this quarter for 2025. Our violent crime clearance rate was 94.7%, and our property crime was at 55.6%. So again, those are high numbers and amongst the highest in the region. And then lastly, on page 23, the daily activity reporting for our foot patrol in Pickle Lake, you'll see that they're sitting at 145 hours this quarter, which is up significantly from last year at only 32 hours. So I'm happy to see that. We're prioritizing the members getting out on foot, being visible in the community, walking the trails, making sure people are safe. And that's going to go a long way to help reduce calls for service. So happy to see that's happening. It's going to continue to be a priority. And unless there's any questions, that is it for my Pickle Lake update.
No questions. Everything actually looks a little bit better here and there. Okay, so then I guess we can move on now to 7B, which is the annual report to the municipalities. And it was attached to our sentiments and attachments. So the detachment annual report, which is this. I'm not sure what we have to do with that. I looked at it and it seemed to look okay. Anybody else have any comments with regards to this big report? A lot of people.
Through you, Madam Chair, just from the staff side of things, we are very appreciative to Inspector Kreitz for the excellent job he did in putting that report together. It's very informative and a great report, and then it will accompany the report that we provided to the board at the last meeting, which was sort of a bit of an overview of the board's accomplishments in the last year. And so both of those reports will be presented together to the councils of Sioux Lookout and Pickle Lake, likely at their September meetings, just as a way of keeping the flow of information there and ensuring that the entire councils are aware of the excellent work that the OPP is doing and all of the efforts of the board to get itself set up and established and moving forward with the work of the board. So just wanted to say thank you to the OPP and of course to Mary as well, as she played a critical role in developing the board's portion of the reports that will be going to council next month. So thank you for that.
Anything else on that? Do we need to do anything with that? No motion. We'll move on then to number 8, which is the correspondence that was 8A, Inspector General of Policing, memo number 6, the attaching of the Inspector General of Policing 2024 annual report. And that was for everybody's information. So the role of the Inspector General of Policing, very good information on his role, and it also outlines some of the work that's been done through the province and I think I heard a lot of this during when I attended the Police Services Board big conference down in London. They talked a lot about all this stuff that's in here with the other communities, the indigenous parts, and the Anishinaabe Nation, NAPS, and what they're doing, and it was very interesting. So I'm glad to see the partnerships are starting. Even the Knoxville Police Service was attending they attended the conference as well, which was the first time I had seen that. I didn't see it at previous conferences, and so things, I guess, are moving along with in terms of reconciliation, I believe. So, there's more work being done in that area, but yeah, so I appreciate looking at all that information about the Inspector General of Policing. Yeah. And I think that's about it for this meeting. Very good work that's being done by the detachment, and I really don't have any questions with regards, nothing that stood out in reporting of the numbers. And I don't know about Pickle Lake, no comments?
No, that was a good report. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll move on to number 9, the next meeting date. Thursday, November 27th, 2025. 2 p.m. So we'll set that as the next date so everybody can put that in their calendars, or we'll get the meeting time set up with Mary or with Brian, I guess. Okay. And number 10, motion to adjourn. So
Almost.
yeah.
Let's do this.
Mom and John. Okay,
second.
and all in favor? Okay, we'll see you in November then. Okay,
All right.
thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.